By 8 years old, I was running around on the field with goalie gloves on my hands. 8th grade, broke my leg, played soccer. Sophomore year, broke my orbital bone, which I have metal in my cheek, metal in my leg. And then senior year, my ACL. So I just got a normal red shirt freshman year. First spring practice, I went to dive and I stepped and tore my meniscus. I had to have surgery again.
That's a lot of injuries.
But it gets exhausting. You'd never wish on someone else. You're like, why is it always happening? Like, why is it me? Finally, I had a very tough conversation my junior spring with my coach, like, hey, you want to be able to walk one day? And then I didn't know what my coach was going to do. You hear horror stories of, a kid tore their ACL, scholarships ripped. Oh shoot, what do I do now? You didn't know that you could have another life. Yeah, I play in an adult league at night, indoor soccer league. Every year I flip back and forth if I'm going to do it, but I just can't get myself not to play.
You didn't know that was the last time you were going to be on a competitive, organized team.
I played in 6 total games over 4 years. Yeah, I've never thought about that actually.
Natalie Freeman is a retired D1 soccer player whose college career was anything but typical. Torn ACL right before signing her scholarship? Check. Multiple surgeries? Yep. And I hope that doesn't all sound too relatable to you, but I'm betting our conversation around the identity shift that comes with leaving competitive sports probably will be. In this episode, we dive into the emotional toll of the unexpected endings and figuring out what the hell to do with all the time we used to be at practice. Thank you for coming on the No Former Athlete podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm very excited for us to talk. Give us just a little bit of a history.
Of me?
Yeah. When you started playing sports, kind of what things you did, how long you played.
Yeah, so I grew up in a sports family. Both my mom and dad played sports growing up. Dad's from Bloomington Normal, which is where I was born and raised. So I was thrown into basically everything he was thrown into because he knew the area, knew the town. Yeah. So I started playing rec soccer probably 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
And then took off into competitive soccer when I was 7. But at the same time, I was playing, basketball, the YMCA, Parks and Rec basketball from kindergarten probably on until junior high when he got really into travel there. And then volleyball, I started a little bit later. Junior high, my mom played volleyball, so she threw me into it. Never
try this. Just try it.
Yeah, I played not the top level of travel volleyball, but like 1 year of travel, hated it. But I just played school volleyball until my sophomore year of high school. Played basketball until my senior year. Well, I actually did play my senior year until I got hurt. And then soccer, I played competitive for the same coaches you played for. And then I took off of soccer, played for a club out of St. Louis, and then played collegiately in soccer. So I did, golf, tennis, swimming here and there, but nothing.
I forgot about that. I was like,
crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing crazy, but yeah. Soccer and basketball are my main two. I actually liked basketball at first more, and then I think 7th, 8th grade soccer I really took off when we, went to WAGs in Washington, D.C. and Memphis, and then I really fell in love with soccer. So that's kind of that, and then met you from my mom teaching you, but then we had the same travel coach, so I kind of got thrown in and tried to follow along.
So one of the fun things that I think, just like you said, so how many years apart are we?
I graduated high school in 15.
Okay, so we're 5. So we're 5 years apart. And the thing that was fun was, so when I first started travel soccer, we started as 3rd graders. And that was like the first time in our area where we grew up, because we grew up in central Illinois. And so like some of the Chicago teams were like starting to have some teams that young, but it was the first time that kind of any teams down by us, especially for girls, were that young. And so my club coach, he, reached out to kind of like the kids that were playing well in PCSL. And they were like, hey, we're thinking about starting this group. So we started playing. And then a lot of my teammates on that club team all had younger sisters, like the exact same class. The same age, same class. And so that turned into the knockouts too, which Natalie was then a part of because you were right at that same age as like everybody's younger sisters.
It was a mistake too because you had all the siblings, and then we Chris Gearman's the guy's name, knew one of my really good friends, Keely Theobald, and they somehow were related in some way, and then they just kind of, he's like, hey, you got to go play for this team, and that's kind of how it started.
We didn't have quite enough sisters to like field a whole younger team. So we needed the non-siblings. Yeah. And I didn't have a younger sister. It was like my teammates. But it was very fun too because like pretty early on, I mean, for me, by 4th, 5th grade, I was only doing goalie.
Yeah. I'll say,
do you know when you did only?
It was 1 year travel where Darren would have us like rotate. And then by 8 years old, I was running around on the field with goalie gloves on my hands. I have a lot of pictures of it. And so
Natalie's like, I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you.
So he left me in there. And so I think I was 8 years old. And like, that's unheard of nowadays where kids.
Totally.
You're not supposed to do that with kids now, but I'm glad I got stuck there.
Me too. So. Well, and that was the same thing where it's like early on, they would like rotate us through and it's like, okay, I'll play defense or goalie.
Yeah.
I'm only playing defense or goalie. And then all of a sudden, like the girls that were willing to play goalie just like were slowly weaning off. And at one point I was like, Darren, like, can I just be in the goal, please? Please just let me use my hands.
So I was running around the field with goalie gloves on, center forward, trying to score goals with goalie 80 degrees.
Yeah, I bet you still did.
Yeah, so he just left me back there.
Yeah, you were just preparing, So that was really fun for us then that, you were kind of like my little sister goalie on the team because you were full-time goalie. I was full-time goalie for the older knockouts. So, are you an athlete?
Still? I would say because I'm playing in a league right now.
Yeah, you are.
So, do I like it? Sometimes no, but it's hitting the ground as, after playing collegiately, it's tough, but indoor soccer league, it's every year I flip back and forth. I'm going to do it, but I just can't get myself not to play. But the games are super late at night, so after coaching and being in the office and then going to play, it's tough. But I would still say I'm an athlete to this day.
Yeah, you are.
Who knows how much longer? But right now, yes.
Well, and that kind of too in the whole no former athlete ethos. When we're ingrained in so much sport when we're young. It's like, well, yeah, I'm actively playing. I'm for sure an athlete, no question, wouldn't even hesitate. But then, too, it's like, well, as soon as I played my last collegiate game, I didn't all of a sudden become a different person. The same person that still has identified as an athlete, the whole time is still there. Talk to me a little bit about your college playing career. Because you had an interesting one.
Yeah, I had a very interesting collegiate career. I'm very lucky for where I went to and the coach that I worked with. But so I tore my ACL February of my senior year playing basketball. I had not signed my letter of intent yet.
Oh, that's right.
So I was meant to sign literally the next week is when my best friend and I were going to sign together. And so I waited. Didn't sign early because you can sign early or later. And so I tore my ACL. Luckily my coach kept my scholarship, so I did not play my freshman year. I just got a normal red shirt freshman year. First spring practice back in March, I went to dive and I stepped and tore my meniscus, so I was done for the spring. Had to have surgery again. Sophomore year I got cleared like middle of the season, so I played in 6 games my sophomore year. We made the NCAA tournament, so like I played the last 6 games of the season to get into the tournament, so they were huge games I played in. And then obviously the starter came back. She had a shoulder injury, so there was 2 of us, which is not heard of now for goalkeeping. So sophomore year played 6 games. Junior year didn't play at all. Spring practice got hurt again. Had to have another surgery going into my junior year, and then finally I had a very tough conversation my junior spring with my coach, like, hey, you want to be able to walk one day, you want to, if you have kids, you want to be able to get on the ground and play with them, all this. And so, it's just the rehab, going through rehab over and over. I was just finally ended up to be done, but he was awesome enough to keep my scholarship senior year. And I joined like as a student coach, I think they're called. So my senior year, I was actually kind of coaching my teammates and all of that my senior year. And then I was done senior year. So I played in 6 total games over 4 years. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I think like I learned a lot. I got into coaching because of my coaches down there, the injuries and all that. But it was not a normal collegiate career. And, I could have got medical hardship and played 1 more year. But junior year when I did it in the spring again, I was like, I'm not doing this.
That's a lot
surgery,
of rehab.
Yeah, it's especially with a knee and an ACL and 2 minutes. Like I don't have my meniscus anymore, so I just have like bone. I'm not doing that stuff anymore. Yeah. So it was tough, but I enjoyed my college time. My teammates were awesome, coaches were awesome.
Yeah.
You hear horror stories of oh, a kid tore their ACL, scholarships ripped, but where I went, that was not what he did. So
yeah, that's incredible.
Nice, yeah.
Which also does show, that like you brought value to the team, and you always had that kind of inkling towards the coaching. Did you know you wanted to coach after?
I went into school pre-pharm, so pre-pharmacy.
That's right.
And failed a math class freshman year, literally bombed pre-calc. So my advisor was like, I don't know if this is the route we want to go.
Gotcha.
So then I went into exercise science and then anatomy. That is the worst class. Any college, that is worst. Like, that is the worst class. So after that class, I didn't fail. I got a B, but I'm like, this is not the route I'm going down. Like, I'm not memorizing all this. So then I went to psychology. Had a great sports psychologist at SIU. So she kind of not forced me, but she's like, hey, with all your injuries, like, you could go down a path like this. So I went into psych with an emphasis in sports psych. And
nice.
So I didn't know really what I wanted to do, but I knew it was something with sport. And then when my senior year happened, then I, was breaking down film, like in coaching meetings. Got into club coaching in the spring of my senior year. It was just like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it served as a transition for you, Talk me through. That's a lot of injuries.
Yeah. Well, it started earlier, too, because...
I know.
Yeah, 8th grade, broke my leg, played soccer, and then sophomore year, literally broke my orbital bone, which is literally your cheekbone, so I have metal in my cheek, metal in my leg, and then senior year, my ACL. So it's like, I knew how to deal with it, but it gets exhausting. It's like, okay, you'd never wished on someone else, but like, why is it always happening? Like, why is it me?
If you're enjoying this episode and you have 15 seconds, please rate and review the podcast. It helps us keep making more episodes like this. Now back to the show.
You'd never wished on someone else, but like, why is it always happening? Like, why is it me?
And you totally were the kid that it was like, the same play happens again. You slide out into someone like, okay, it's just, a deep bruise, something like that. No, Natalie's broken.
Well, and then, you break your leg and it was a full snap. It didn't go through my leg, but it was pretty close. And, you call your mom like, I broke my leg. I'm in the ER. She's coming up with her packing chair like, oh, she's just going to get a cast. No, it's a week in the hospital in Rockford. So I still to this day, I've never had a cast, which is crazy.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
For you?
Never had a cast.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So.
Sometimes people go through just one injury.
Yeah.
And that can tank someone.
Yeah.
You know?
My college roommate was a volleyball player. So Division I, we had to move in July 5th. I think we were down at school. So we were both coming in with an injury. So we both knew we weren't going to play, which helped a lot because we had each other.
No kidding.
I mean, transitioning from high school, club even to college is tough. And then you're not going to play at the beginning. It's harder. But to have someone, to lean on you're doing therapy with her, even though it's a different injury, you have therapy with her, you're seeing the sports psych, the same issue, but obviously you can talk, it was a nice benefit. And she was lucky she never had an injury again, but
she got back out there.
Yeah, she played
and stayed uninjured.
She played 3 of her 4 years.
Good.
But it was nice to have that where, some kids they go and they don't have that. And
not again that I would wish it on anybody, but like you did have some pretty big injuries from a young age. Yeah. So even just like that mentality, do you remember any of that? Like, do you remember having like how you felt? Just purely how you felt. Yeah.
8th grade, I don't remember, but I do remember actually in 8th grade. I couldn't go to school in 8th grade. Yeah. Actually, I think you came over
I do remember
watch because my parents were at work. And so I don't really remember 8th grade. Sophomore year, I remember when I broke my face because I missed all of summer basketball workouts.
That's right.
And I couldn't, you do your week camp for soccer, then you go to Burlington, Iowa, which is a huge thing for team bonding, and I couldn't play. And that, so like, I remember being frustrated, but not, this is kind of cocky, but I'll say it. I knew that I was going to play soccer. There was no one else, like, behind me to take my spot. Yeah. Basketball, luckily Coach Cadron was awesome, and I knew where I fit on that team, so I wasn't...
You knew what your role was.
What role was there, but team bonding was like, you're missing out not playing, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
So there's times it was frustrating, but...
Yeah.
And I was fine with it, so...
You persevered.
Yeah. Eighth grade sucked because you missed out on the school part. Like,
totally.
I didn't get to go to the 8th grade dance. I wasn't there for the last week of school because I was at home. And if I did go, I was in a wheelchair, so you can't, do the same stuff. So that was frustrating. But as I got older, I think it's okay. Like, I know where I belong. People people knew by the time I broke my orbital, they knew it's fine. So
she's kind of the injury girl, but that's okay. That's fine. Okay. You didn't know after the 6th game your sophomore year of college that was the last time you were going to be, on a competitive, organized team.
Yeah, I've never thought about that actually. I do remember when my coach went back to the starter, which she had full right to play. She was better than me. Obviously, we won in PKs versus Notre Dame as a mid-major, which is never heard of.
Let's go.
But I do remember being frustrated because I was like, hey, I won 6 games. Like, that's a pretty big, deal. But then by the time where I did it my junior year in the spring, I think I was obviously very upset when I had the conversation. I remember calling my parents, like, crying. I had to call my grandparents crying.
Absolutely.
Like, I told my roommates before I told the whole team, and I was still, like, for a week, I was just like, this is crazy because I didn't have, like, a closing moment, and then I didn't know what my coach was going to do, scholarship-wise, team-wise. Was he going to just say, hey, you're done, see ya?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. So, like, for a week, it was very, like, I'm not an emotional person. So when I called my dad crying, he's like, what happened? Are you okay? Like, he thought there's like a major issue because, like he said, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of weird. I never had like this is my last game, last moment. I walked on the field for senior night.
Hey.
With 2 other people, but
Let's
I
go.
didn't. I think it might have helped in high school because I didn't play soccer my senior year, but I did get to play. I started my last game.
That's right.
I walked out onto the field and then they subbed me right off. So I think like I was just kind of content with that. But yeah, looking back, actually, I don't remember like the last moment. Like, oh boy, I'm done because it was random.
You did, yeah.
It was a Tuesday in the office with my coach and cried to him and my other assistant coaches and it's crazy. Yeah,
and too, like you said, in a D1 position, it's like. You had worked your ass off for years, like that's every club kid's goals, right? I want to get D1. You did it.
Yeah.
You did it amongst all the injuries,
Yeah.
which is a true testament to your skill. Like, yeah. But then too, that lack of closure can be freaking hard.
Yeah. If it was like for the whole
Natalie's like, yeah, it is. I've never thought about it until now. Thanks a lot, freaking Aaron.
Yeah. No, I just remember that whole week, like, and my coach wasn't forcing it. He's like, if you want to continue to play, we'll help you, but I don't see how, you're not the same player recruited, which is fine, but you're not, like, there's 2 other goalies now, so I was going to compete against 2 other kids, and, I mean, it would have sucked.
It would have sucked.
I mean, the amount, like, even the 6 games, like, I didn't practice for those 6 games, like, I wasn't, because I was wearing that huge, bulky ACL brace, and then I ended up having, like, a problem in my other Achilles because I was, you're planting all the time. And
on that one.
So I never practiced. I would just show up and play games. So he's like, you can't do that and expect to play.
Natalie's a true gamer. She's a gamer only, but that's just because she's not allowed to do the others.
I didn't like mine not practicing. I don't have to get on the line and run. Not my problem. I was actually the reason the goalkeeping fitness test at our school is now different.
Really?
Because they would give me this impossible, like, biking, kettlebell swing one.
Yeah.
So I'd always tell the goalies, like, the young kids on my left, I was like, yeah, you're welcome, you got out of the beep test. You don't have to run the beep test or the 2 miles.
Yeah, because you're like, I've proven that we can win games, I can play in the games, even though I can't pass the test.
So it was interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, you crushed. That's really freaking hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Yeah.
Were you the kid? Write down the adjectives that describe you or whatever. Like just like throughout school, like starting in elementary school, it's like, okay, like what are the things?
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah. Like, do you remember, like what were your things?
I always wrote athlete first. Yeah. Then I would probably write funny, smart. But like athlete, soccer player, basketball player were number 1, number 2.
You were like, can I write like athlete and then basketball player and then soccer? Like, do those count as separate ones? Or do they
make
all
my
have
list
to go
longer?
in athlete? Yeah.
No, I definitely wrote athlete.
Yeah.
Athlete first. Which is my dad was the same way as me. Like he, it took him longer to finish college. So he would always be like, just take however long you need. It's fine. But my mom being a teacher and my grandparents being teachers.
Yeah.
I have an A-, and I'm like, I have an A-. I'm content. My mom's like, you should have an A+. It's freshman social studies. What are you doing?
I am the chair of the social studies department. My child, please.
Yeah. So I would always write athlete, funny, probably basketball, soccer player, and then very bottom would be student or smart or something like that. So, which is like the opposite of my sister and how she is, which is kind of funny. So
fair. As I'm getting older, you know, there is that piece of like, okay, yeah, so much of kind of how we think about, like you said even before, you were like, oh yeah, actually I can call myself an athlete again because I am currently playing in a league. Okay, so I'm this kid, all my formative years, athletes written in all caps at the top of each of these things. That's what people always asked me about.
Yeah, I would always get asked sports, you know.
What was the first question? If you were meeting someone new, if you were meeting your parents' friends, or you were meeting like a friend's parent for the first time, what would they ask you first?
Well, what sport do you play? What sport do you have this weekend? I mean, I think part of it's Bloomington Normal, but I think that's also like just the people that we were always around. Like they just knew us as, oh, you're Natalie Freeman, you play basketball, soccer. Oh, you're, Aaron, you played this. Like
it's like in the psychology, in my, childhood psychology of growing up, I don't know. It's not like I would be like, oh, like that needs to change.
Growing up, I was lucky enough to be on teams through junior high that always were successful.
Totally.
Whether that was club or even in junior high, volleyball. We went to state 3 years, basketball 2 of the 2 years of the 3 years I was there. People kind of just knew, and I took pride in being like, yeah, I'm, I was a state champion, junior high volleyball, which looking back, it's like, okay, that's so, no one cares anymore.
Hey, you know
what? But hey, my picture's on the wall.
That's right. So that's right. You can go find both of us on the walls. We'll take you on a little walk.
It was actually funny. I went to watch one of my players. Yeah. He plays basketball at a different school in town. They were playing Parkside, and I was like, I don't practice. I'm going to go watch them. And his mom and I are really good friends as younger brothers. He's like, is that you on the wall? I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I was like, oh, you want to come over here? My trophy, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. So, yeah, it is. But, like, even now, like, when I ask kids, like, on my teams, I'm like, hey, how was baseball today? How was this today? Like, that's all. I don't ever ask, which I guess shame on me now. How was school? How's your family?
No shame. No shame. But it has just made me, as my now adult self, kind of reflect on, like, okay. Yeah, as I am interacting, with athletes that like what if I asked you like back in the day, in the heyday of sport, junior high going into high school, all of that, minus the injury, but what were your other hobbies? What things did you enjoy doing?
I didn't really do much besides like, I could say hang out with friends, but I didn't really have time to hang out with your teammates. And
then what were you guys doing?
Practicing or I didn't have. Yeah. Which is crazy looking back. Yeah.
Like again, nothing
change it.
Nothing wrong with it. I would so not change it, but it's just it has just been causing a lot of reflection for me recently on that, like, then when you're done competing competitively, when you're done doing organized sport, maybe it's when you don't know it's going to happen. Yeah. Maybe it's when you know exactly when the last game's going to be. Some people get stuck in that what's next.
Yeah. I think I probably would have been stuck in there if I didn't have an awesome sports psych. That, what a perk of SIUE is when we went there your senior year, you had to take a class on like a career, like what's your next career step. And even going in, they made you take like hey, here's how a college athlete's going to look.
Yeah.
Well, I think without that, I would have been like, what am I doing? Where like some of my other friends, growing up that, played at ISU and then they quit. Same with me. They didn't know it was going to be their last. Like, they didn't know what they were going to do and they bounced around trying to do stuff. Now they have, a family, a job, and they're stable, but it's just like they didn't know what to do. And if I really didn't. I was a volunteer coach and I was making pennies living at home, doing nothing. But, it's kind of crazy. I don't know how people will would adjust. Like, even when, my sister played Division III golf and then she quit. I'm like, what do you do with all your free time? Like, what do you do? Yeah. Like, you study you're in class 2 hours a day, you study the rest of, what do you do?
Yeah. The identity piece.
Yeah.
Have you thought through that much before? Mm-mm. Other than me totally bringing it up right now?
No, I haven't. Yeah. And it's crazy because even like this weekend, I had a parent ask me like, "Oh, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing well. Soccer's going well." Like, I'm not playing it. Like, my league I'm playing in, but I still answer with how soccer's going. Which I mean, I work in it, so it makes sense. Yeah. But like, it's crazy now. I'm like, why can't I just answer how I am as a human without the sport?
Yeah. Do you know how you are as a human without the sport?
I mean, I'm content like what I'm doing, but it's all revolved around sports. So I don't know if I could answer that question because honestly, my mood does change on how my 10-year-old, 13-year-old boys perform this weekend. It's going to be how I'm going to be this week, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm happy, but I'm happy because soccer is well right now, you know? So I don't know what it would be like, which is
I don't know how I'm doing. I don't know how I'm doing.
No, I'm doing well, but yeah.
She said, no, I promise I'm fine. But your work is, you know, your passion as well. It happens to be sport related,
yep.
but there is a piece of, you know, when you were hitting that junior year and you called and you're like, I'm not an emotional person.
Yeah. Maybe now it's my emotions are like this. like I get angry quick. I frustrated quickly. It's probably because I don't have a sport to help to help with it. But it is crazy now that you say it. Like back then, like people never cried. Like I was just very content.
Why?
Why did I never cry?
Yeah, just like because you said back then, you know.
High school I was.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. I really don't know. Probably because I was so busy just doing stuff, running from one thing to the next. I didn't have time to process. But now it's like, okay, I have time to think and actually be more than just a soccer player. So, but it is crazy. Like, I get frustrated at myself now when I get emotional, which is completely fine to be emotional about things.
Totally fine to be emotional.
And like, I grew up in a house where it was completely normal to be emotional. And it was fine. But my parents will still like, you know, your dog died. You know this dog for 10 years. You didn't cry when you were a kid. Like, what is wrong with you type of thing. Where now it's like, I'm crying watching movies. Like, what is this? Like, this is not who I am.
Welcome.
So I've started to like realize that like I am changing, like how I think and you know, all that. But it is like, this is just kind of weird.
You're letting yourself feel the emotions.
Yeah.
Guess what? No matter what's going on outside of your sport, when you're playing 3 sports and you got to go to 2 practices in one day, you don't have time. You don't have time to be emotional. One of the athlete benefits, the superpower pieces, is, okay, I got this stressful thing going on. This is happening. I got this test I have to study for later. All right, I step onto the court. I'm not thinking about it for the next, 2.5, 3 hours. Which again is like, to me, I'm now finding it's like, oh man, I like need to find that again. I was like, that was so nice. I was like, wow, my like stress control in that same way, right? It's like, as an adult now, I'm like, I just my only way to really describe it is sometimes I just like get to this point where I'm just like, I just feel like I'm like vibrating like right here, and I'm like, okay, just like let it come back down.
No, you can always tell like this week. Leading up, we have a tournament. Like we're hosting a tournament of 145 teams. I'm putting on, which is cool. But it's like always my most stressful week. So like my kids can tell like I'm getting stressful and like I snap easier now. Like it's funny. One of my coworkers, like we're really good friends. We always get like dumb arguments like during the next 2 weeks. I'm like, why am I like
we know this is going to happen.
Like every time.
Can we not combat this early?
Every time. Like my kids over the weekend like, oh no, it's tournament week. I'm like, guys, it's okay. Like I promise. Like
I've been practicing. I've been preparing myself for this.
But it's like you said, like I don't like that's all I'm thinking about is like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, and this. Where in the past like, yeah, I'll do that when I have time. But now it's like, okay, you don't have this to do, you can do it now.
And you're going to get it done.
Yeah, but it'll be last minute always. That's how I always am.
Me too.
Yeah. Me too. Drove my mom crazy.
Me too.
You have 2 weeks to write a paper, you wait till the night of.
Yeah, but you know what? My efficiency in writing that is going to be the same paper. Paper didn't change in that amount of time.
Yeah. I kind of still on the same schedule, like growing up though, which I think for me, it'll hit me after, because now I don't have to wake up and go to school for 7 hours or however long, but I wake up, I go into the office, but then at 5 o'clock, I'm going out to coach trainings. 5 o'clock for me growing up, that's when I was training and being coached. I'm not like, I'm still kind of, but Fridays, right? For example, Fridays, I'm like, all right, I don't have practice. Like I'm in the office. What do I do now? If I'm not traveling to a tournament, I can hang with my friends, but it's just like, this is weird. Like I don't have something to do, but I'm adjusting.
How do you feel about that? Like, do you like that's your situation, that's the case?
I don't know. I think sometimes I do, but like this weekend it was nice because my grandparents are back, so I got to see them. Now that I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? Like in 2 weeks, what am I gonna do on Friday? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I don't like to like just be sitting at home. Like I'm very like I have to be doing something. So it is weird, and like my parents are like, why are you here? Like, what are you doing? Which they like having me around, but it's like I'm always doing something, going somewhere. So it's an adjustment.
Yeah.
For 27 years I've been on the go, and now I'm just, what do you mean I can sit at home and watch Netflix, all the time? So.
Yeah. What are you doing to figure that out?
She's like, just girl, going with the flow. Yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
Right now I'm watching Netflix.
I don't know. I took up golf.
Hey, there you go.
Which is a sport. So
it's a sport, but you know what? It's a different kind of sport.
It's different, yeah. My dad's a golfer. My sister's a golfer. Yeah. I never really I'm like, this is so slow. But now it's like, okay, I'm still playing a sport, but yesterday I went, I'm like, I don't care, I'm just going to hit the ball. And
perfect.
So that, I guess I would say I'm filling in time. But in the winter, I hate the winter. I hate it because I'm only on the field 1 day a week coaching. So I'm like, 6 days I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
I need to find something. Not going to be reading, none of that. So,
hey, surprisingly, I was never a reader. I was literally, don't quote me. Hopefully none of my teachers hear this. But like legitimately, I think by the time I hit high school, I maybe only like properly finished one book. I was in a lot of classes that required you to read more books than that, but hey, I was pretty good. I'd say I'd read like 70% of the chapters, just in all different orders, Mm-hmm. But I've been getting back into reading. It is nice.
I can't do it.
Hey, you never know. I'm just saying, you got a couple more years. I got a couple years on you.
Okay.
Look out. It literally just happened this year. It was a surprise moment. Moment, but it could happen. That is a piece of it. Yeah. What do I like to do?
It's weird because, someone I grew up with, Keely, she was in the same boat. Her career ended early. So, like, when I came back home from school, we were always hanging out doing stuff. Well, now she has a kid. So now she has something. I don't have a kid, you know? So, like, I do, like, do stuff, like, with my parents. Like, I think my parents and I are a lot closer now.
Totally.
I'm closer with a lot of my friends' parents now. Like, it's kind of cool that, like, Keely's parents... Yeah. And my parents and I, we still hang out and do stuff together. But I don't free time, I don't know what to do with myself. It's weird. I don't like it.
Yeah. Welcome.
But that's how I guess anyone that didn't play a sport felt, which I'm like, how did you guys do this?
I know. Yeah. I think we all kind of like in our own little silos, like have moments of this. You know what I mean? Maybe someone doesn't feel it for, an extended period of time, but you're not alone.
No,
I'm gonna put that out there. But again, we don't talk about it.
No.
Honestly, until recently, like, again, all my sports memories, all those things, like, they're positive. I was great. I had great teammates. We played on great teams, things like that. Like, okay, awesome. Oh, wait, maybe the sports side of me also is causing these feelings now where I'm like, oh, wait, what do I like to do? What do I do with that free time? And
it's weird.
Yeah.
I don't wish that I was like a high schooler now growing up. I think the whole NIL and all that with kids, like, you see Caitlin Clark, you see her doing other things now on social media. Social media was like just starting when I was like growing up. So like, the people that I looked up to, like, Candace Parker, I didn't see what she was doing in college. So like, you didn't know that you could have another life.
Yes.
Where, like, now I'm like, oh, Caitlin Clark's doing this. Like, my kids are like, oh, this guy's doing this and this. I'm like, okay, you guys can see you can still have a life. Or, like,
totally.
I didn't have that. You don't have access to Instagram, TikTok, whatever else is out there. 100%. They all watch. So I think that probably helps a little bit.
Okay, they're wearing that today. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, they go to the coffee shop down in the corner. Yeah. It's just like normal everyday things versus it being like, it's about my sport all the time. Yeah.
I think vlogs, it's really, I've like obsessed over watching like college athletes vlogs.
Yes.
Which to me is like crazy. And like my sister and I like, oh, did you watch, Shayla Gonzalez, she played at BYU, now she's at Texas, but like, she'd be like, oh, did you watch her vlog? Like to see them actually like having a life, like it's so weird watching someone go to the grocery store, but like, that's like, oh, they do actually have a life, and they're still a Division I athlete. Kids today are like, they watch that it's going to help them, I think. Where for us, it's just like, oh, shoot, what do I do now?
We saw these people that we idolized or were a role model to us, sport. Right? Only. We only ever saw them in their jersey.
Yep.
If they were in a commercial, they were in their jersey. They were doing their sport with it. The Mia Hamm back in the day. Like, okay, she was competing against Michael Jordan in the commercial. Yeah. And so then it's like, well, that's what we're emulating.
Yeah.
those are the kind of things, you know, that stick into our kid brains. Yeah. And so it's like, they're always doing their sport. Yeah. Even when they're not on the field, when they're not on the court, you know, they're always doing their sport. So I do think that is a positive of like, oh, yeah, we're just now all in our, you know, upper 20s, low 30s. And we're like, oh, those people also had other parts of their life and like figured these things out. And we're just figuring it out now. Yeah. We'll figure it out.
One day, hopefully.
Hey, today you've learned you've got emotions.
I did, yeah.
Emotions are okay. Yeah. You've been through a lot. You're resilient as hell.
You made me think today.
All the things. Hey, No Former Athlete podcast. It's not about sports.
It's about thinking. Yeah.
It's about the athlete. It's about how they're doing. Your story is very much the story of like, you didn't know that game 6, sophomore year of college was
it. It is crazy now that you we've talked about it. I never thought about it until actually now. And I'm like, when someone asks me now I'm going to have to think before I respond.
Good job. I'm proud of you.
So you learned.
I know.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review. You taking that 5 minutes makes a huge difference and helps us to be able to make more episodes like this. And if you want to see more content in between the episodes, follow us at No Former Athlete on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm so glad you're a part of this No Former Athlete community. And if you know any No Former Athletes that you think I should get in touch with, DM me on Instagram at No Former Athlete. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.